I need to start first by saying I love Hoenn. I've always loved that region. The Gen 3 Pokemon games have always been my favorite. I was never really that big into the Gen 2 games, Gold and Silver, and I get the appeal of them, but even back in the day when I was a kid playing them, I kind of just saw them as pretty much the same thing with a few new extra features tacked on compared to Red and Blue. But when I played Ruby and Sapphire for the first time, it felt to me like something new and something fresh. There was new types of battles, there were new things to do that weren't just battling, like the contests and whatnot. And so, after that, I actually fell out of Pokemon for a little bit, and I didn't get back into Pokemon until Gen 5 with Black and White. In partially the hopes that there was going to be a remake, just because Red and Blue had been remade for the Gen 3, and Gold and Silver had been remade for Gen 4. And there wasn't a remake in Gen 5, and that's fine, because those are pretty decent ones too. But then Gen 6 came out, and Pokemon was revolutionized because now it's in 3D, even though there's technically the console games of Colosseum and XD that were already in 3D, but, you know, whatever. And if I was to kind of just, like, quickly backpedal just to the first Gen 6 games, X and Y, they're okay. I don't really think they were that groundbreaking as they were trying to make them. It was just kind of like they've upped the ante in terms of what they're going to show visually, and it worked out all right. It was fine. It doesn't have a lot of lasting appeal, I'd say, X and Y, but it was definitely just kind of a fun ride to do for if it's your first time or if it's your sixth time or whatever. But then this year, they announced finally that there was going to be remakes of Pokemon Ruby and Pokemon Sapphire, and in quite a huge turnaround point too, because it's just a little over a year since X and Y was released when they released these new ones, and just using that engine and kind of recreating Hoenn, you know, this is still a really fun game. The Pokemon games in general are never perfect. They're just kind of like, it's a unique type of RPG, and if you're not into it, you don't really need to be into it. How it became this big craze is still probably like one of the biggest mysteries to this day, but they're still fun if you can find the fun in them. As for me, the fun really still lies in this region. The Hoenn region is this very diverse and very fun region to explore. It feels like an adventure game, and that's what I love about it so much. When I think back to X and Y and playing it last year, I remember, all the cities, and, I remembered it was, yeah, I kind of go from city to city to city. It felt like I was, just kind of touring in some kind of foreign country, and I get that's kind of the point. But when I play a game like this, when I play an RPG, I want to have some kind of exploration. I want to feel this kind of sense of adventure. And the first Pokemon game, Red and Blue, way back in the day, kind of did it a little bit. Gold and Silver did not. It was just kind of the same thing that Red and Blue did, and it wasn't really adventurous. But then Ruby and Sapphire still stick out to me very much as being these major adventure-type games. It doesn't, it's still Pokemon, but it feels like there's more of this adventure-type feel to it. From the different routes, from the different layout of how the map works and whatnot. And everything about this remake really benefits, I feel, from what they were trying to accomplish with some of the visual and other things in X and Y. And all those things that were in X and Y that made it stand out really well to a lot of longtime fans and to new fans, like the Pokemon of Me, Super Training, all that stuff's back, so you don't have to worry about that being taken out. And they added a lot of new stuff, too. There's some new stuff in general that they added, but they also brought back a lot of things that made Gen 3 my favorites. Those were my favorite Pokemon games. And Alpha Sapphire is quickly becoming my new favorite just because of all of these additions. And all these inclusions just kind of make this very complete package. This is the ultimate Pokemon journey. If you have to only go on one Pokemon journey your entire life, make it this one, because it's adventurous, it has all the good elements that new Pokemon games have added in, and it just feels like... It's... Sorry, I get lost sometimes when I think about it, because it's just... To me, at least, this is what I feel is what you should be looking for when you want to go on a great kind of RPG. You want to go on that adventure. You want to have that great experience. You want to go and take down the bad guys and whatever they're doing. Whether or not it's being some kind of weird underground they're kind of like this underground gang, Team Magma? I don't really know what there is. Or you're going to fight pirates, which is Team Aqua, and that's what I want to go fight. And it also accumulates into you fighting the main legendary of that game, and it actually kind of has some effects on the world, like not too major, and if it's a remake, so you probably know most of the plot by this point, but that stuff I find is really cool, how they integrate it into the plot and all that stuff. And I guess just, for me, like, it was just fun to go back to this region, to see it in a new light, to see everything, like, so fun and fresh. And the ability to have my favorite Pokemon come with me, which is Oshawott, because Oshawott was introduced in Gen 5, and you can't put Gen 5 into Gen 3 games. So yeah, I can have Oshawott go with me in Hoenn now. That's my starter. I like Oshawott a lot. I don't really know what else to say about it, to be honest. I mean, some of the new things that they added / brought back, or the contests. I haven't played a lot of the contests yet, to be fair. I haven't done a lot of them. I've done, like, 1 or 2. And they seem kind of similar to how they were in the original Game Boy Advance game, with the exception of the Berry Blunder. I missed that thing. That was so much fun. You get to ding, 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 ding. You don't get to do that anymore. They leave it open for you to look at in the contest hall for some reason, and I just kind of glare at the game and go, I want to play that. That was a fun minigame. But they also brought back the secret bases. Secret bases were some of my favorite things to do in the original Gen 3 games, and what secret bases are is that they're basically these little areas that you stake out, and you make your own kind of like clubhouse for yourself. You can decorate it, and then eventually you can recruit other trainers, kind of make your own mini gym, which is a new feature. In the previous one, it was just you decorated it, and if people, you could trade secret bases, they could fight you. In this one now, you have the ability to trade them over online, through Street Pass, through QR codes, and so you can also recruit more trainers to join, so you can kind of make your own mini gym of up to 6 people, including yourself, which is really neat. There's also, like, a lot of other stuff post-game to do with that, like just collecting flags and whatnot. There's a ton of legendaries to collect in this one. Like, almost every single legendary from any of the games, excluding probably the Gen 6 legendaries, and I think a few from Gen 4, I'm not entirely sure. And by Gen 6, I mean also Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres, because those were the ones you could catch those in Gen 6, so I guess those count as Gen 6 legendaries now? Yeah. But that's really cool, and it's not anything important. You have to do that if you don't want to, but it's there for you to do. And I think that's kind of the refreshing thing about it, is that Alpha Sapphire has a pretty decent campaign. It's pretty decently long. I remember it taking me a bit longer than the X and Y one did. The X and Y one kind of holds your hand through a lot of it and just kind of plops you through stuff randomly. This one kind of takes its time to pace itself out a little bit better, and that's kind of weird because it's still following almost verbatim what the original plot was from the original game. So it's kind of weird that they paced themselves better back in the day, which seems like they wouldn't, but it felt like that to me. But after you get through that main plot, in X and Y, there was literally nothing to do. You had this battle place you could go to, but that was it. Here, there's a lot of options open for you. You can do plenty of different things. That battle place is open again with the hopes of potential DLC-ish maybe coming to that, so they can expand that, because it is just the same battle place, even though it's on this gigantic island that looks like they could put more stuff on it. Post-game stuff, obviously, you can do the contest stuff you want to. I mean, you could do the contest stuff before the post-game as well, but you can still do more of it after. The secret base is obviously something that you could probably just keep doing forever with secret bases, and it's a much better Street Pass thing they have than they did with X and Y. There's also a slight post-game story mode, which kind of ties in a little bit of a new plot, while also tying in bits of Emerald, I think. I never played Emerald, so I don't know for sure. But this new post-game is actually kind of interesting, because it does kind of add more to the story, and it forces you to kind of go through things again, do things a bit differently, and it's not repeating the game, obviously, but it's new content that's kind of cool. And obviously you get some legendaries out of it as well if you do it properly. With a new character, she's not really that developed of the character, obviously, because she's kind of just thrown out for this one little... essentially, it's a side story, but it's required to get the full completion of the game. But it's still fun. It's a lot of fun, and I just kind of like, I look at it and I just think like it's so great to be back here, because in the Hoenn region there are so many places you could go to that were off the beaten path, for the sake of being off the beaten path, because they weren't required for the story. You could go to these other places whenever the heck you felt like it, when you had the ability to, so you could purposely explore there, look for new Pokemon, find new trainers, battle new people. It's like there's so many cool things to do here. And all, like, the regions, I still find it the most diverse region of all Pokemon. It is this more tropical area, but you have this area that's like, there's obviously beaches, there's this desert area that's really cool, there's this area that's behind the volcano where it's like, it looks like it's snowing, but it's actually soot from the volcano, and it's like this really kind of desolate area. That's really cool. There's this, my favorite route in all of Pokemon is this foresty-like route with this very tall grass that goes up to the 6th Gem City. It's Route 119. It's my favorite route in all of Pokemon, and it was so cool to see it come back, to have this freaking amazing music be redone and just kind of blow me away like it did when I first played the game. It was a huge nostalgia trip, and it still holds up so well. I just feel like it holds up very well, and all these different improvements and kind of re-additions they brought back, everything clicks pretty well with what they are trying to accomplish. Now, obviously, there's some faults I have with it as well, because you just can't, you can't make perfection, obviously, depending on who you talk to. And I'd say some of the faults is that I would probably add a little more stuff to it. I mean, there's a lot more content in it than X and Y ever did, so there is that. But it would be nice if, some of these legendary encounters served more of a purpose other than just kind of being there. And I kind of find it lame that a lot of legendary encounters just reuse music from the DS games instead of making their own unique music remix. I kind of get why they did that, and it's supposedly going to be explained even more for a certain type of legendary Pokemon that has not been revealed yet. But at the same time, it's kind of like, come on, guys, you could have revamped this music. The other major, criticism I give it is the experience share. And this is kind of more of, a personal thing, but the experience share in Gen 2 onwards, up to Gen 6, what it did is that it only allowed one Pokemon to gain experience while not battling. So, you get another Pokemon out battling, this other Pokemon holding experience share would gain experience even though it wasn't fighting. Gen 6, they changed this back to how it was in Gen 1, in which all Pokemon, regardless of who's fighting, get experience for a battle. The problem with this is that X and Y was definitely tailored with this in mind. They remade Ruby and Sapphire almost flawlessly perfect to how the original game was. The problem is that there's a shit ton of trainers in the Hoenn region. By far, probably the most trainers in any Pokemon game I've ever encountered. In which case, if you have this experience share on, the game's just ridiculously, stupidly easy. And so it's kind of like... And they give it to you really early in the game, too. I was just like, that's post-game stuff. You should have given that to me in the post-game, not in the main game, because that's just going to make it stupidly easy. That's kind of stupid. You can turn it off, so it's not that big of a deal, but it's just kind of dumb to give you the ability to do that and make the game stupidly broken. But that's just me on it. Otherwise, yeah, this is probably my new favorite Pokemon game, just because everything just works so well in it. I know it just sounds like I'm not saying much about it, but it's just kind of it is my own personal nostalgia, and it is something that I hold so dear that it was so great to see it come back. And I didn't half-ass it. They definitely took their time and kind of realized this region. There's some new things in it as well, like the ability to soar in the air with flying on Latios or Latia. It's kind of in a more standard RPG flying mode, which does get me hoped, whatever, for future games in which they might use this again, in which you can maybe fly to other regions. You know, just saying. You can also fly to any routes and any area in the game, which is a first. So now, if there's a route where you plan to bury something, you can just fly back there, no big deal. And that's awesome. There's so much, like, it's a game that really wants you to go around and explore, and I just love that so much. Just like the secret bases make you want to explore, looking for different Pokemon makes you want to explore, looking for the legendaries makes you want to explore. It's a game that, like, wants you to have the exploration. There's obviously the main player campaign that you can go through, but having this exploration is really cool. Otherwise, I can't really say much. I mean, I've talked a lot about this, but this is like one of the big games for me of the year. So it was just so good to come back to Hoenn. I really enjoyed it. And hopefully maybe there'll be some DLC stuff, because I would love if you just kind of expand onto this game instead of making another one really fast, because that's just me. But if you haven't picked it up yet, I'd highly recommend it. If you're kind of Pokemon'd out and you don't really want to get started with a new Pokemon adventure, then maybe worth a skip. But if you're looking for what I consider like the quintessential adventure, like the best Pokemon game to go, I just went on a great adventure, this is it. And I hope you all enjoy it, because it is a game that is meant to be enjoyed. Enjoy the contests, enjoy the double battles, enjoy the triple battles, enjoy the secret bases, enjoy just everything about it. There's a lot to enjoy. And that about wraps it up. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.